Do you want to install an app into Teams that allows people to get support rapidly from within your organisation? I'm the Productivity Coach, and today I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Stuart Ridout, and I'm a Modern Work Customer Success Manager at Microsoft, and I'm joined today by my colleague Jack, and we're going to show you a great app. Jack, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Absolutely. I'm also a Modern Work Customer Success Manager at Microsoft. I work in the healthcare industry in the UK.
Great. Jack is an awesome customer success manager. So today we want to show you a new app which is available on part of the app templates and goes right into Teams. So it's called Git Support, and there's loads and loads of different use cases for this. Now, it originally came about as a response for a customer who ran a call center, and when somebody needed help, if they had a particularly difficult call, they could put up a red card and a supervisor will come to them. Now everybody's working from home, then they had no way for that red card to be visible. So they came to us and we've helped them to build an app that allows them to just click a button and it will raise a request straight through into a team, and then a supervisor can jump on either messaging or jump onto a call to help them. So Jack, can you show us the app so people can see what it looks like, and then we'll go ahead and show you just how easy it is to build.
Absolutely. Let's get started. So you can see on my screen on the left hand side I have a Teams window, and this left hand Teams window is for a call handler, people that take calls in the call center. And on the right hand side I have a window for a supervisor, someone that would help when it needed an escalation or just help in general to provide additional assistance to the call. Now on the left hand side, inside of the team is a tab, and you can also run this as an app also on the left hand rail. We have the Git Support app, and the Git Support app has some configurable buttons. In this instance, we have 3 configurable buttons for one call center: an abusive caller, risk to caller, or an other issue. And these can be configured as well. So whilst at the moment you see 3 buttons, we'll show you how to configure these. On the right hand side, you'll notice that the supervisor is doing their day-to-day job inside of Microsoft Teams, as we see most organizations nowadays. But for me, as a call handler, it's really important that I make sure I get the right person to support me as quickly as possible. And so as I'm taking a call, I want to raise an escalation. And in this particular case, I'm going to say that I have a risk to the caller. So I click on the risk to caller button. You'll notice that as I do that, we submit a request using Power Automate. And on the right-hand side, the call handler will the supervisor will automatically receive a card. They can click on that card and see who the request has come from and what the request is referencing. They'll also receive a reminder for a set amount of time, so you can have it as 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute. I can also provide additional details, such as a call ID. In this case, my manager can join the correct call. And then whoever is available as a supervisor, they can see this information and simply click I can attend. What that then allows them to do is start a conversation with me directly through Teams. You can see here that Stuart's actioned this. So Stuart can click on start the chat session and immediately engage in a chat with myself. At the same time, I also have the option to see who has responded to that card. So I now know that once I've submitted my request, the person that's going to come and give me assistance. Now, it doesn't just stop there, because we've thought about all of the data that we're collecting, all of the analytics. And by collecting so many analytics, we wanted to make this empowering for the organization and the industries that you're working across. So we capture data such as the requests that have gone out, how fast it was responded to, and all of this data is then put into a Power BI dashboard built again with inside of Teams. Now organizations can understand where additional training may be or where additional resources may be for different parts of the business. And this is all built with inside of Teams.
So this seems like something that you could be paying a lot of money for. There could be third parties who are doing all of this. So this is all held in Power Apps and using Power Automate. Is there any additional licensing that's required for this?
So no additional licensing. It's all built off of the free integrations within Power Apps. Where at the moment we're using Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and also SharePoint to pull all this data together inside of Teams.
Fantastic. And I know that this is really, really easy to get deployed. You can do it really, really quickly, and that it's scripted. So do you think you could just walk us through that just so we can see how quickly you could get up and running with this solution?
Absolutely. Let's get started again. So you can see I'm now on the App Templates website, and on the App Templates website, you can find the Git Support application, which links you to the GitHub, the open repository for you to be able to download this and install this in your environment. So we're going to walk through it end to end as if you would just pick this up yourself and wanted to install it in your organization. So what we're going to first do is start by downloading the zip file, because we need to make sure that we're uploading the app, the flow, and then also the Power BI as an optional extra. I've already done this, so therefore it already lives for me inside of my downloads folder. And all I now need to do is go ahead and extract this. So I'm going to extract this into my folder. You can see here, we're going to choose to extract into the folder. There you go. I've extracted my files. Now, whilst you're doing this, in the wiki, we also have a deployment guide. So as I follow this step by step, and I also show you as I do it myself, you may want to reference this, because this will help you understand what steps you may have missed out on if, for example, the deployment doesn't go right first time. So step number one, we're going to head to SharePoint. I've already got a SharePoint open for us, but you can find this by going to office.com and then the SharePoint icon on the left-hand route. We're going to go ahead and create a site. And in this instance, we're going to call it a team site. We're also going to give the site a name. So I'm going to give this the Git Support app name. And it will tell me that it's available, which is great. And we're going to change this from private to public, just because we want the data to be open. You can also give it a description, but for this demo purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and press next. And then we can add additional owners. You can do this at a later stage as well. We'll add Stuart now. We wouldn't want Stuart feeling left out. And then we can go ahead and press finish.
Now, just to say, if you selected public there at the start, this means that anybody can use the app then, doesn't it? So you don't need to go ahead and configure access to those data sources.
That's correct. And just like that, we've already got through the majority of the step that we needed to do. So step one, which was create a SharePoint site, is already done for us. We now need to create a SharePoint list, and this is where we're going to first integrate one of the downloads that we just made. So we're going to go to office.com again, and we're going to open Power Automate. Again, if you do not see Power Automate, you can press all apps and it will show you all of the apps. Power Automate is the one we're looking for, formerly called Flow, but we are going to upload a flow to this environment. So on the left-hand side, we're going to go to My Flows, and we're going to go ahead and say import a flow. And what it will allow me to do is choose a package. So bear in mind that this was the initial zip file. We've extracted that now. And what we need to do is go through these folders to find the flow that we're looking for. And you can see the flow that we're looking to choose is the deploy SharePoint list flow. Because we have the site, we just need to create a table and also some specific fields in there for us. So I'm going to upload this flow for the first time. It will take just a second or so. And all this is doing for us is help automate the process. Rather than us traditionally go ahead and manually enter a backlog of data, this is allowing us to do it in one simple flow. So from here, I can just very simply go to create as new. I'm going to create this as new. I'm happy with the name deploy SharePoint list. This is the name of the flow. And then I'm also going to make a connection between my Office account to a SharePoint connection. So at the moment, we see this connection here because I've done this previously. If you don't, you'll just need to go to create new connection, where it'll open an additional tab. And this is where you'd search for SharePoint and make the connection with SharePoint, as you see here. So you just click on new connection and make the SharePoint connection. Once you have that, you may need to refresh the list and you'll see that the connection is available. Just go ahead and press save. And then we're going to go ahead and simply press import. It will take a few seconds to import, but whilst it does, I recommend that you just check out, obviously, the deployment guide. So you're complete in understanding where you are right now. These are all the steps that we followed, and we're all happy with them so far. So now we're going to jump back to the flow. You can see it's just importing still. As it does this, we can prepare ourselves for the next step. So here what we need to do is we will need to edit the flow, because we'll need to give it your custom organization link and the link that you've created for that SharePoint site. So you can see there is a variable that we're going to change, and the variable is the name of the SharePoint site. So in this instance here, it is my organization name .sharepoint /sites /Git Support app. I'm going to copy that, jump back to the flow, and I can see that my flow has successfully been imported. There is an open flow option. I'm going to click on that. And from here, it's going to show us what that flow looks like. You can see, whilst there is a lot of things in here that you could play around with, the only thing that we need to play around with is the SharePoint URL variable. So what we're going to do is replace the one that we already see in there and we're going to go ahead and replace it with a new one. So you can see here, the Git Support app link is our new link. We're going to go ahead and press save. And then what we'll need to do is, because we've imported this for the very first time, it won't actually be turned on. So we're going to press this back arrow up here to go to the previous page where it will show me my flow. I can see that this is exactly the flow that we've named it. Obviously, in this case, it's gone to number 2, but for you, it would be number 1. We're going to turn this flow on to give it access to run. And we're going to simply go ahead and press run for the first time. It may ask you to confirm that you've got permissions. I'm going to go ahead and press continue. And I'm going to choose to run the flow. And the flow should take between 30 seconds to a minute to run. You can refresh the flow status to see how long it would take. You can see this is done in 4 seconds, so maybe even a little bit quicker. Now what we need to do is just confirm that that flow has done what we needed it to do. So again, in the deployment guide, where we ask you to go to is back to the SharePoint site. Once you're in the SharePoint URL, you can go to the settings cog and you can go to site contents. This will now show you a new list, which we've just created using the flow. And just by clicking on that list, we can now see that we have all of the fields needed for the Power App to collect the data and then visually show it in Power BI as well.
So you haven't had to go through and create any of those columns or any of the options or any of the types. None of that messing about. It's all been automated for you.
That's it. So we've just saved ourselves probably an hour's worth of work going through and creating all these tabs, etc., and just use the flow to do so. Okay, so we go back to our deployment list. We can see we've run through this. There is a section here around SharePoint security, so feel free to check that out as well, around checking that you've got the correct set SharePoint security and you're happy with the configuration. I've already shown you the list request. So again, we're just flowing through this piece of information here. One thing that you may want to change is obviously the read status of who can and cannot edit the SharePoint site list and who can see all the items. Again, this is configured inside of the in the deployment guide. So I'll let you do that at a later stage. So now what we're going to do is we're already on step 3. We're going to go ahead and import the Power App for the very first time. So what we can do is we can make this environment a little cleaner for ourselves. We can close down these unnecessary tabs that we have right now. And we're going to open Power Apps. Again, office.com, find it in Power Apps, or make.powerapps.com is the URL that you can type in, and it will take you to this environment. And we're going to go ahead and import our Canvas app for the very first time, which is our Git Support application. So just like Flow, we're going to follow the same steps. I'm going to go back to upload, choose the app that I'm after, and you can see here I'm after the Git Support zip folder. I'm going to go ahead and press open. Takes a couple of seconds. As it does, reference the guide again. What is it you need to get? What is it you need to do? We will need to set up new connections in this case if you haven't set them connections up previously. And what you can see is straight away it's brought us into this environment. So we're going to go import the application name. We're going to go create as new. You can give it a resource name. So if you're happy with the Git Support app name, and that's perfect. If you would like to change it or tweak it for your organization, this is where you can do. We're going to go ahead and press save. Inside of this app, we are also running 2 flows, and we didn't import them previously because they're already part of the app. So in this case, we're going to create 2 additional flows. This is the Git Support flow, which helps send the request to the Teams site, and then also updating the SharePoint item, again, so we can track that data and obviously make sure that we're applying to the correct cards in the channel. And then at the bottom here, you can see there are 3 additional connections. So we should already have the SharePoint one because we've done that earlier in the flow step. We may not have the Microsoft Teams connection. And again, this is where you'll need to go to new connection and find that connection for yourself.
But all of those steps are shown in the deployment guide, aren't they?
They're all in the deployment guide. So I'm whizzing through this as if we've already done the deployment steps. And then we're going to go ahead and press import the app. Again, whilst we do this, we can go ahead and check the deployment guide ahead of time, and we can see exactly what it is we need to do. So the next step we're going to do is go to flow again, where once we've successfully imported the app, it's going to add 2 flows as I mentioned, and we're going to go back to flow to update those flows that it imports. That's the Git Support flow and the update SharePoint item flow if you haven't changed the name.
So we're already talking here about call centers, but there's loads of other ways that you could use this, couldn't you? I was thinking that maybe schools could use it if there was people who were in the classroom who needed support, or it could be retail workers, or people who need IT support. There's a whole range of applications.
Yeah, tons of different use cases, but of course In this use case, we'll go with the call center. So the app's been successfully imported, which is amazing. We can simply open the application because we will need to edit this later. So now if I click at the top to say manage your flows, we'll go back to my flows and we'll see a list of flows that the Power App has imported for us. We can see here that there are 2 grayed out application flows, and they're grayed out just for the reason they're not turned on yet. So we will need to go ahead and update some of the variables inside of these flows. Again, all of the steps are in a deployment guide. To get started with, we'll go with the Git Support flow. So this is one we need. We can click on the pencil icon to edit the flow. It's going to take us into the steps necessary where we need to make some changes. From here, what you can do is change the reminder time. So as you saw in the demo at the start, it was every 10 seconds we received a reminder. We can change that to a time that suits us. So 30 seconds or 60 seconds or even 90 seconds or even longer, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, etc. And then what the things that we're going to need to focus on is changing the Teams ID, the channel ID, SharePoint URL, and the list ID as well. So there are a couple of things that we need to do now. We need to get various different links. One of the things that you want to already have set is a Teams channel and a Teams site that you're going to use for the first time, obviously, to post these kind of notifications into. So down here, for example, you can see I already have a team built, and I'm going to build one with you now. So I'm going to go to teams.microsoft.com. We'll find it in the office.com splashboard. And here I can create a brand new team. Let's go ahead and create a team quickly. And we will call this Git Support app. In this case, I'll make it public. You could make it private. It is obviously optional towards you. But I'm going to say this is a Git Support app. Simple. Add the necessary members you want to be part of that team. So ideally, all the supervisors need to be in there, and of course, all of the call handlers or any other use case that you want. We'll put Stuart into this for the first time. Okay. And now my team is created. I'm going to add a channel, and we will call this requests. And this is just a standard channel where all of the requests will flow through from the application I click. What I need to do now is get a couple of URLs that are specific to this team site and this channel. So on the request channel name, I'm going to press the 3 ellipses, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose get the link to this channel. It will give me the whole URL that I need, so I can copy this. Now at this point, we only need pieces of this URL. So it may be worth if you open a notepad document. I'll open a quick notepad and I'll paste it in here. All right, and you can see that there's a whole string of information here. We only need certain pieces for our flow. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just pin this to the opposite side of my screen. Let me just move this across a little bit. Okay, so now if I go back to edit the flow, we can see that what I'm after is the Teams ID and also the channel ID. There is, again, in the deployment guide, the full steps as to how to identify between the links, what piece you need to copy and what piece of information needs to fit in the Teams ID and also the channel ID. It's all fully documented for you here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Teams ID. Stuart, by memory, do you remember what this was?
So this is the group ID here. So yeah, where it says group ID equals, and then it's the bit between the equals and the ampersand at the other end.
You're correct.
And you need to make sure, obviously, you get the whole piece and nothing more, nothing less.
That's the piece we're looking for. So I'm going to copy that piece right now. And what I'm going to do is put this over here again. Notice I'm switching screens, so apologies. There we go. So this is the replacement value. So we've got our Teams ID taken from the link that we copied from the channel. I'm going to paste it here. We now need the channel ID. This one I think is the easiest ID that you'll probably need to find, because the channel ID is quite simple. It's after the / 19% all the way to where it ends in .tac v2. So we'll copy this and we'll replace it here. You can see that's made the changes. So now our Teams ID and our channel ID is done. We will need to now move on to our SharePoint URL. Again, the SharePoint URL is slightly different. It's the one that we used previously, but we will also need to get the SharePoint list ID, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So what we'll do is we'll go to the SharePoint URL. We know this because we took this earlier. So we can copy this again. Go back to the flow. The SharePoint URL is now here. and the list ID is what we need next. So what we can do is we can come to the list, as you can see here, press the cog icon and go to list settings. Make sure you're in the request list. And now we'll have a string of information in this URL bar, and it needs to be after the capital B, so 7B after the capital B. My large cursor here is making it slightly difficult to grab, and just before the % sign. So that's the information I need. Back to the Power Automate, and I can replace that in here. And that's my SharePoint URL and my list ID.
And it is worth just taking a few seconds longer just to make sure that that is right, because I have seen customers get caught out in the past where it's like %7B and they've copied that B. So definitely just worth taking an extra moment just to check.
You want to make sure you get the correct piece of information. Once you've done it as well, crucial, you need to make sure you press save. So saving that information is important to obviously this process. So that's flow 1 done. Super simple, right? So we're going to go back to my flows. The Git Support flow is the one that we've just edited, so we can actually go ahead and turn this flow on now. So I could press the 3 ellipses and turn this flow on. And the only flow I need to now make amendments to is the update SharePoint item URL, flow. In this case, again, let's go to edit. Now, anything that we've done here, we've just done before. So we should hopefully have this information saved for us again to use.
So you might be worth getting a OneNote or a Notepad document just to kind of copy those through so you've got them all available to you.
That's correct. You'll probably need to do that. Otherwise, you're going to do what I'm doing here, which probably isn't the fastest way. As you can see, my trusty Notepad is coming in handy here for me. After group ID, right away through 7E. That's my Teams ID. My SharePoint URL. Hopefully everyone knows this. I'm going to take from here my list ID as well, and my SharePoint URL. Well, here's my list ID. Make sure I copy all of it, replace it with my list ID, and my URL for the SharePoint. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, I 100% advise doing what Stuart said, having probably a OneNote open to the side where you can have all this information pre-populated, rather than doing the steps that I just made myself redo. They're the only things that we need to update when it comes to this particular area here. So we'll go ahead and press save again. Again, just referencing the deployment guide. Everything in the deployment guide shows you exactly how to do that. So we've just run through all of the steps necessary to complete the necessary steps to ensure that the flows work. So now I'm going to press the back icon. It's going to take me to this flow. I need to turn this flow on. And once I go to my flows, I should successfully have the 2 flows no longer grayed out, but instead colored in because they are now operational and working. But we haven't just stopped there, because now we need to make sure that the app lands inside of Teams and the app has the correct corresponding buttons to your organization. So we're going to go back to make.powerapps.com, where our app was successfully imported, and we're going to make some amendments to the app here. So Git Support app was the app that we imported. We can go ahead and press on this and choose edit. And you can go ahead and close down these additional list settings that you've got. You no longer would need those. As the app loads into the Power Apps Studio, this is where we're going to make configurations to the buttons. Again, because it's my first time opening this application, it's going to say I need access to Office 365 users, SharePoint, and Microsoft Teams. They're all free plugins inside of the Office environment, so no need to worry about using any paid applications. So we're going to go ahead and press allow. Okay, we don't need the tour because hopefully between myself and Stuart, a couple of experts to help you out. But what we are going to show you is very simply how to go ahead and change some of these buttons that you see here. So by default, as you import the app from the GitHub, it is police, fire, and ambulance are the 3 main buttons. But what we can actually do is configure those to make them relevant to obviously my organization. So you're going to click on the word app on the left-hand view, and where it says tree view, you're going to click on app. And up here, for example, you can see a string of information on the on start view. Now, this obviously currently has the 3 labels and 3 categories for police, fire, and ambulance. But let's go and add an additional button. So what you need to do is just before the close brackets, you need to copy the curly brackets right the way through to the comma. And we're going to add that straight after the last set of curly brackets. Now this is where we can change the label and the category. So Stuart, what do you want us to put in here?
Well, let's just stick with the theme. We'll go Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, okay. Coast Guard in here, and I'll add Coast Guard in here. Okay, and now our 4 buttons are added. So all we need to do is come over here to where it says the app option, and we have the 3 dots, and we can say run on start, and you'll notice that that's just added an additional button. So no time spent in having to configure where does the button go, how does it look, the placement, etc. It's done and taken care for us. So we've already successfully configured the buttons, we've implemented all the flows we needed to, we set up the SharePoint site, now we're ready to add this into Teams. But one thing you need to do is when you make any changes, make sure you go to File and Save and choose to publish this with all of the people that are accessing this app. It is also important that you share this to the people that need access to the application. So in this case, we'll go to Share, and I'm going to choose a set of users to have access to this application. So I can make it as easy as putting everyone, small organization just for a demo, and everyone will now have access to this application when they go to use it, as opposed to requesting access, which is what we don't want them to do. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to add this into Teams, Stuart. Sound good?
Perfect.
Perfect. So we've gone through everything in the deployment guide. We are ready to place this into Teams. And again, this is what I'm going to show you how to do now. So already the app is open for us. I can simply go ahead and press Add to Teams. And it will tell me, okay, no worries. It's going to download the application Git Support with this logo. And this is the description needed, which sounds great for me. So I'm going to go ahead and press Download the app. Okay. And it's going to download this zip file down here that we've just seen. The zip file is perfect because that's exactly what we need to upload it back into Teams. So what we're going to do now is we're going to choose the, we're going to go back to Teams, so teams.microsoft.com or the desktop application that you may have. And we are going to go to Apps. At this point, it is probably worth noting that you must have the option to upload a custom app in your organization. If you don't, then you probably need to speak to IT or admin. And again, that is in the deployment guide as to how you can best position that as well. What we're going to choose to do here is upload a custom app. And I'm going to say I can either upload it for the entire organization, which makes sense in my situation, or I can upload it from just me to test or just a set of team members. So in this case, I'll say upload for all of Contoso, which is our company here. And what I need to do is make sure that I'm choosing the correct root file. So I've gone back to my downloads. And as you all saw, we downloaded the application from Teams, from make.powerapps.com, and it was called Git Support. So in this case, we'll go to Open. It will take a couple of seconds to just load that zip file for us. And you can see already it has added that application into my demo environment that I've got right here. So now I can simply press Add. And inside of Teams, I have access to obviously the relevant buttons that we deployed. You'll notice that there are 4 buttons here instead of 2 buttons or 3 buttons. And now in the Teams site, I can also see the request channel here. So what we're going to do is we'll probably do a live demo to make sure it's working.
That looks great to me. Now, it is worth saying, as Jack said, that if you don't have access to upload that, if you're not an administrator, you probably won't have access to upload it, depending on how your organization's set up. So we have got links, as Jack said, to tell them how to do it and how they can pin that app for all of the people. So what they can do then is using the Teams Admin Center, stick that app onto the sidebar for everybody, so it makes it super easy for them to do that. So yeah, let's have a look.
Alrighty, cool. So we'll just imagine that it was pinned to the left-hand rail, nice and easy for everyone to use. So I'm on my call, I'm taking a call, and I need additional assistance when it comes to taking a police request. So what I'm going to do here is press the police icon. And as soon as I do that, we're going to see the same view that we saw in our demo. You'll notice that all of the application is changed to the relevant information. At this moment in time, because I'm logged in as myself, we're going to experience it as if there wasn't a supervisor accepting a request, but instead me. So I'm going to go to call ID, and again, I'll give a call ID here. I can go to update the request. I can return to the menu to press more buttons if I want to. But what I'm going to do is jump back to that team site, and we can already see here that the request is coming through as expected.
Jack, that looks really, really easy to set up and really, really effective. I love to see how that digital transformation can help an organization just kind of solve these big problems in a really simple way. Now, obviously, you did show the Power BI at the start. The Power BI is just as easy to set up, and that might be something we might look at again on a future video, or you could, of course, just look at the deployment guide there to get started. So thanks ever so much for sharing this with everybody. I'm sure that they will be able to think about how they can use that within their organization. So just a reminder, on the Productivity Coach channel, we do Tips on Tuesday, which is on LinkedIn and on YouTube, which is where you're seeing this, and we do Lunch and Live on a Friday, 12:30 GMT. And all of those previous Lunch and Learn Live sessions are there on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/productivity coach. So hopefully you found this video really useful and something that you'll be able to implement in your organization. I'll see you again on another video. Thanks for watching.